Hey everyone, Chang here and welcome to my channel. Today we're finally going to break that barrier. We're going to actually intermingle some of the scariest thing about math, variables, with what we're going to cover today. That's right, today we're going to talk about expressions and equation. By the end of this video, we're going to know the difference between what is an expression, what is an equation, what does it mean to simplify a problem, what does it mean to solve a problem, and all the stuff relating to it. I'm going to start off by acknowledging that there's this saying, and I've heard it, I've used it plenty of times. The difference between expression and equation is the equal sign. One of them has the equal sign and one does not. And that's 100% true. Completely, unrefutably true. But there is some subtle difference that I feel like once we can differentiate, once we can see the actual difference and fully understand it, it will make our lives working with equations and expressions a lot easier. To begin, expressions is nothing more than a combination of numbers, variables, and mathematical operations. So adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, square root, so on and so forth. Now the key here is, like the saying said, there's no equal sign in an expression. So let's just put up some expressions on the screen. 2 plus 6 minus 10. This is an expression. 3 plus 9 minus x. This is an expression. X cubed minus 2x plus 4. All of these are just expressions. Now, equations are a little different. Equation actually is a relationship between two different expressions. So you have one expression, the equal sign, and another expression. So it's saying this expression and this other expression are actually the same thing. They have the same value. Now remember, equations have equal signs. So here's some examples of equations. 12 plus 8 equals 20. That's an equation. T plus 137 equals 482. That's an equation. 4 times parentheses x minus 3 equals 7 times parentheses 2x plus 3. Such a complicated thing, still just an equation. Now why is it important? Well, the subtle difference between expressions and equations tells us exactly what the problem or the question wants us to do. Remember this though, expression itself is not a question. It is not a problem. It is just a combination of numbers, variables, and math operations. So there's really nothing to solve. The only thing you can really do is to reorganize it however they want it or simplify it. Simplify in this case is you're just trying to combine all the individual terms together so that you get the smallest amount of total terms that you're working with. And that's where things like combining like terms comes in. So a classic example, something like this. Here, simplify this expression, or usually they just have the direction simplify. Parentheses 7x plus 5, close parentheses, minus parentheses 6x plus 5, close parentheses. Now, once again, this is not really a problem or a question. There's really nothing you can solve. So what you're going to do is you can simplify. You can combine like terms. Let's just take all the parentheses out. For the minus, technically it's a negative 1. You can distribute it. So you have 7x plus 5 minus 6x minus 5. Now we're going to reorganize, we're going to combine. We notice that there's a positive 5 or plus 5 and a minus 5, which is negative 5. If we combine those two together, they cancel out, they become 0. Now we have 7x minus 6x. We combine those guys together, we have x. So this large expression is just simplified to x. Now here's another expression. Let's just say we have 6x plus 3 parentheses 4 plus 2x inside the parentheses, close parentheses. Now, once again, for something like this, the only thing you can really do is simplify or combine like terms. In this case, we have 6x. We're going to distribute the 3 into the 4 and the 2x. So we have 6x plus 12 plus 6x. Well, we have 2 6x. We can combine like terms. We have now 12x plus 12. Now, lastly, this is another expression. 2 plus 6 minus 10. Well, when we combine quote-unquote like terms, when we combine all of them because they're just numbers, they're constants, you get negative 2. Now notice this. I used those specific example for a reason. The first one, the end result was x. And that's all you can do. They're not a problem. There's nothing to solve. There's no try to find the value of x because there's really no way to find the value of x, right? There's no equal sign. The same is true with 12x plus 12. Once again, that was it. We combine like terms. is simplified to its, I guess, smallest form. And then there's really nothing else. There's nothing to solve. The last one, however, is a little confusing. We ended with a result of -2. It seems like we solved the problem, but technically we didn't. We did combine like terms, we simplified. All those three happen to be numbers, and when we combined them, the end result was -2. And that's why there's that confusion, because that result is the same result if we have 2 plus 6 minus 10 equals, and we're trying to find out what it equals to. In this case, it is -2. So, even though there's a subtle difference, I want you guys to notice that. From my experience, that actually makes a huge difference, especially when you're presented with quote-unquote problem or question, an exam, or I guess in certain situations, right? The word expression tells you immediately what they really want you to do. The only thing you can really do is reorganize, simplify, right? If it's talking about equations, right, then that's different. Now there's something to solve. So I'm going to go through some examples and compare them so that you can see the difference between an expression and an equation. So here's an expression, parentheses 7x plus 5 minus parentheses 6x plus 5. That's from the previous example. We know that when we simplify it, it's just x. Now, what happens if I make it an equation though? Here's an equation. The same thing, parentheses 7x plus 5 minus parentheses 6x plus 5, but I'm going to set it equal to 0. Now, with the equation, there's something more, right? On this side, we know that the whole thing, when you simplify, is just going to be x. So it's going to be x equals 0. So in the equation side, if they're asking you what is the value of x, what we happen to have in this case, x equals 0. So we actually figured out what x is. So the same with this example. Here on this side, we have 6x plus 3 times parentheses 4 plus 2x. This is an expression. There's no equal sign. And remember, this is just from a previous example. The end result is just 12x plus 12. Now, if I change it up, I use that same expression, except for I set it equal to 36. Now it's different. Once again, we know that the simplified version is just going to be 12x plus 12. But now it's going to be equal to 36. So we can go even further to try to solve for what x is. So in this case, we're going to subtract 12 on both sides. We're going to have 12x equals 24. Then we divide by 12 on both sides. We have x equals 2. So for this equation, we solved it. X equals 2. Crazy, right? Subtle difference, but a difference nonetheless. Try it yourself.
1.
Just a keynote, I will have the answers in the description for those of you guys who are curious and want to check your answers.
3.
Thank you for sticking with me until the end of this video. Let's summarize what we went over. Expressions are nothing more than a combination of numbers, variables, and math operations. Remember, math operations are anything from addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, square root, so on and so forth. Now, the key in this case is that there's no problem, there's no question, there's nothing to solve. The only thing you can really do is simplify, and in this case is usually incorporating combining like terms. Equations, on the other hand, is a comparison. You have one expression equals another expression, and that brings it further. So not only can you use the idea of combining like terms and simplifying the expressions, but now you can actually solve it. So usually equations are related to problems. There's something to solve, and that usually incorporates you finding the value for a certain variable to make sure that everything ends up being true. Now, the key is just to know the difference, and it's a wonderful, actually, test-taking strategy. Knowing the difference between expression and equation will let you know that if you reach the end of the problem and there's really nothing more you can solve or find, that is it. It's an expression. You simplify it, done. The other one is that if it's an equation, then you know that you are not done. You better find the value if possible. Lastly, please like, comment, and subscribe. Yes, this kind of nitpicking in detail seems kind of weird and inconsequential, a waste of time, but actually it's not. Once again, even though it's a small difference, it can make a huge difference when you're doing homework, when you're taking tests. Because guess what? It'll let you know if you're wasting